Welcome to our posts. Today we will see stories of am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for laughing at my housemate when he suggested I not shower on my period? I've 31 female, live in a share house. One of the housemates, Jack, 30 male, has never lived with a woman outside of his mother but likes to say that he is aware of women's issues and calls himself a feminist. For instance, he doesn't agree with the saying no uterus no opinion because it's my job to be informed about any issues that could affect me if I become a father or husband, which is fine until it came to this issue. So, like most biological women, I have periods. I, however, cannot use tampons or cups due to a condition called vaginismus. It's pads all the time for me, yay. I know, the shower during this time. Wow. I prepare a new pad onto a clean pair of undies, shower as normal, dry myself off in the shower, and then step straight into the undies. And obviously check the bathroom for mess. Jack's never complained, nor has anyone else, so I figured my system was working. Cue today, and I can't shower for 48 hours due to a heart monitor test. I was jokingly complaining about how I was going to survive without my nightly shower, and Jack looked up confused and said, "How is this any different to when you're on your period?" I asked him what he meant and he said, "Well, you can't shower on your period unless you use a tampon," and I laughed because I thought he was joking. He has shown before that he was at least semi-educated on women, which he got angry at. Jack said, "Wait, well, what do you do?" And I said, "Slowly I shower." I wasn't getting it, I'm afraid. Jack said, "Without protecting my bathroom?" He does not own the house, and then went off. Apparently, my period is unhygienic, it can cause infection if left on the shower floor, and he was under the impression I hadn't been showering for a week when I had my period or using tampons. I said that due to reasons I can't use tampons, and he told me then I'm banned from showering when I'm on my period, which I laughed again, at which I did apologize for and say, "I'm sorry for laughing," but the audacity of that statement. I told Jack he has no way of enforcing this, nor would I be sticking to this, and he said fine. Then every time you shower, you need to bleach the bathroom afterwards, to which I couldn't help but laugh again, apologizing, but saying we're in a share house. That's not reasonable when other people need to shower and use the toilet, and considering I'm sure at least somebody else pees in the shower, is ridiculous to only enforce on me. I brought that up and he said nobody does that, I've never heard of that in my life. So I just had to walk away. Jack's been complaining to other housemates about this and saying that we need to watch out for me, and we all just think he's absurd for banning me, but a couple think that I should just at least try and compromise, so I'm confused. Am I the a-hole? Next story. Am I the a-hole for taking back a shawl my wife made for a bride-to-be after she was uninvited from the wedding? My wife, Lena, crochets a lot and often gifts it to friends and family. When her second oldest brother got married, she made the bride a shawl to wear over her dress in the evening. The bride loved it, and ever since Lena has made shawls for everyone in her family getting married. Now Lena's oldest brother, George, is getting married again. Lena doesn't have a relationship with George as he was abusive to her as a child, but if she has to see him then she is polite but distant with him. She doesn't want to cut off the rest of her family because of George. I work with George, and while we aren't friends, we are friendly at work. Lena encouraged this. When George got moved to my team, I was going to request a transfer, not wanting to expose Lena to George, as my team do a lot of get-togethers with our significant others. As it is a family wedding, Lena's mom asked her if she could crochet a shawl for George's fiancée, and Lena agreed. It was arranged that once it was finished I would take it to work to give to George so that Lena didn't have to see him. Earlier this week, the shawl was completed and I emailed George at work to let him know that I would bring it in today as the wedding is tomorrow. When I got into work this morning, I gave George the shawl and let him know that Lena and I were looking forward to the wedding. Come lunchtime, Lena called me to let me know that George's fiancé had called her and told her that she was no longer invited to the wedding, citing the place they are having the wedding and the reception it is too small for the number they have coming, so are having to make cutbacks. However, I was still invited to the wedding. I was mad at this because they clearly only invited Lena to get a shawl, which to me is just rude. If they had asked Lena outright to make one, she probably would have done because she loves to crochet. On my way out of work, I noticed George wasn't at his desk, but the shawl was. I was still mad that they had used Lena to get a shawl, and I just shoved it in my work bag. I left a note on his desk telling George since Lena was no longer invited, the shawl and I would no longer be attending either. On my way home, I told Lena what I had done and asked her if she wanted to go out instead, so not to waste having a sitter. Lena was upset that I had taken the shawl as it was causing an uproar in her family group chat where people were calling her petty because I took it back. Lena wants me to give it back. I don't think I should, they don't deserve Lena's kindness. However, at the same time, I don't want Lena to be upset with me over George and a shawl. Am I the a-hole for taking back the shawl? Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving the table after what my father-in-law said? I am 26 years old woman and my husband 29 years old and we were invited at my in-laws for dinner yesterday. Everything was going great until my mother-in-law brought up my husband's player phase in high school. My mother-in-law was just jokingly being like, honestly, him in high school, I'd never thought he'd actually settle down with somebody, and my father-in-law was like, yeah, even less with someone like you. I asked him what he meant by that. Both my mother-in-law and husband were then like, please, no in a oh he's gonna F up way. My father-in-law said, well, you weren't exactly his type in high school, you know? My husband tried to make him stop after that, but my father-in-law added, not saying you weren't pretty enough or anything like that, you just wouldn't have caught his eyes. I got up the table and went to the bathroom. I was not even in there for 5 minutes that my husband knocked and told me we were leaving. Once we were home, my husband received a text from his mom saying that my reaction was childish and disrespectful and that we wouldn't be invited again until I apologized. My husband replied that I'd only apologize if my father-in-law apologized first. He didn't got an answer, but his sister texted me that I needed to apologize as soon as possible because I was putting my husband's relation with his parents at risk over a misunderstanding. Next story. Am I the a-hole for letting my brother and family stay with me after a flooding but not my niece? I, 37 male, have been married to my husband, 41 male, for 4 years. I came out my family as bi when I was 16 and from the very beginning, they were nothing but supportive and to this day, almost my entire family accepts me as who I am. My niece, 20 female, is the only exception. She is my brother's, 43 male, daughter and despite her parents showing no prejudices against the LGBTQ+ community, she doesn't make a secret of her homophobia. I don't know where her beliefs stem from, but the day I first introduced my husband and then boyfriend to her family, she has been very hostile towards us. She was 14 at the time. She refuses to speak to my husband, barely acknowledges us at family gatherings, and despite her father constantly chastising her, frequently uses the F-slur to refer to members of the LGBTQ+ community and calls same-sex relationships disgusting. Due to a severe flooding, my brother and his family have been forced to evacuate their house. My husband and I have a guest room and a sofa bed in our living room, so when my brother asked me whether his family could stay at our place for a while, I told him that him, his wife and their younger children, 15 female, 12 male, were very welcome to stay as long as they needed to, but that we weren't comfortable letting his oldest daughter stay with us. He seemed to have been expecting that answer and told me that he understood my reasons. When he broke the news to his daughter, she was furious, asking where else she was going to stay and that she had nowhere else to go. From what I know, my brother offered to help her pay for a cheap hotel, but she doesn't want to dip into her savings because she doesn't work and she's been living with my brother rent-free. Apparently, she's been staying with a friend for a few days now and she's been telling her mother how awful it is there. My brother is still supporting my decision, but his wife has started trying to convince me to let her eldest daughter move in. She's been pushing me to get over her comments because my niece is still young and naive and that she couldn't have known her actions would have major consequences. She's advising me to be the bigger person and not let my hard feelings for her daughter stop me from helping a family member, because that would be an a-hole thing to do. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not going to my sister-in-law's wedding due to her dress code? I, 25 female, am having a conflict with my husband's sister, 36 female. She is getting married in 2 weeks and her dress code is incredibly complicated to adhere to for me. It is black tie, long sleeves, and floor-length gowns. The conflict happened because I am currently 34 weeks pregnant and overheat very quickly, and the wedding is entirely outside, in the middle of the day, in the southern USA where it is incredibly hot. I cannot be in a long-sleeve floor-length gown in the heat for 8 hours. I have sent her a few dresses to try to compromise, which I will link in the comments for further information, but she is completely adamant about exactly what she wants. I told her yesterday that I cannot attend her wedding if she is not going to budge even slightly on the dress code. I told her she has the right to have her wedding exactly how she wants it, for it to be her perfect day, but I have the right to look out for my own health. She freaked out at me and told me I was being incredibly selfish and that for once it isn't about me and my effing baby, which she only said because she's jealous I'm having the first grandchild and she felt like she should have had a baby before me and my husband. Since then my husband's side of the family has told me I'm being selfish and to just compromise one day to keep the peace. I don't think I should need to compromise my health for her wedding. Am I the a-hole and being unreasonable? Next story. Am I the a-hole for taking my parents' assignment too literally and being too honest? My parents called for a family meeting last Sunday and said they were realizing that we didn't have the happy little tight-knit family they had expected to have. They expressed that we had all been closer when we were little kids. For context, it's me, 16 male, my brother James, 14 male, and my other brother Easton, 12 male. But now it felt like we never spent time as brothers, especially me and James, and that sharing a room, they would have expected more from us. My parents said they wanted us to all be totally open and honest about how we felt and to express if we had any issues with the family to get out of the way. They said they weren't going to take a turn until after the three of us spoke first. And we couldn't leave until we opened up and said everything. I told them I felt like they had somewhat unrealistic goals, that they ignored some stuff that had been mentioned to them in the past that would have made the lack of closeness less of a surprise, and that it was weird for them to pretend they had no idea of anything going on. I admitted that I hate sharing a room with James. That personality-wise, he and I clash, and that he relies too much on being the younger brother and getting his own way, which annoys me. I said I had told them this before. James will set up these sleepover nights for him and me on the floor, and he'll expect me to play football outside with him until it's close to midnight and then go in and watch movies that bore me to tears and sleep in our sleeping bags instead of our beds. I said he started insisting we do things he enjoys when we were like 8 and 10, and ever since that point hanging out with him has not been fun for me. It has not made me feel closer to him. I admitted that I would rather share with Easton. I also said I had brought this stuff to my parents' attention before. And even complained when he was messing up my side of the room and left me to clean up, which my parents expected me to do instead of him. I also mentioned that I hate hanging out with his friends who I have nothing in common with. I told my parents they overlooked James being mean to Easton. That it might be due to jealousy and resentment that I'm closer to Easton, or it might be due to Easton being the youngest. But they would never let me say to James what James can say to Easton. I also said they treat us like we're little kids. They will tell us to go hang with much younger kids and do their activities at family houses, and they'll tell us no video games until we play outside. And that even after 16 years of knowing me, they still can't accept that I don't like sports and it's not my idea of fun to kick a ball or run around, and it never has been. James was upset about the stuff I said about him. Especially about not wanting to hang out with him and his friends. My parents were furious with me and said I had no right to say all that. I said I was doing what they asked, and they said that wasn't what they asked for. Am I the a-hole? I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel or posts.